Okay, for this one, you're going to be doing your 2-point bedroom in layers, and I'll show you the different processes. So you're starting like we did in class with your structure layer, which is having your vanishing points 18 inches apart. You've measured 2 inches from the top, 4 inches down, 2 and 2 for your horizon line. And then we did our Xing method to find out our 2-foot increments. Okay, from there, we're going to overlay it like we talked about in class and create a box layer. So you're creating a box for the bed and for the nightstands, maybe blocking in where you want the window. And then you're refining it with that layer to start to just work out some of the detail. So I added a coat, crown molding, baseboard, some window treatment, some artwork. What's the bed going to look like? Notice you're going to soften the lines of the bed so that you're kind of breaking through that box and creating these curves so that the bed's going to read soft. But you're just working this out still in this wider format, the 18-inch paper, and again using your lines, multiple lines, just kind of roughing it in. Now once you've got that layer, you're going to overlay that, and notice that you're cropping in on it at this point, meaning you're going to use a shorter piece of paper because we don't want to go all the way out to the vanishing points. That'll lead to distortions. We want to remember that cone of vision idea. So I'm cropping the paper back into about 15 inches wide and then trying to get a variety of line weights. So I'm going to take this out from under now. And then, so notice I'm trying to use softer, more broken line on these soft edges. And then, you know, little firmer line on the areas that are metal and things that are firmer edges. And now I'm ready to add some color. Okay, so you want to have a window off to the side of the bed, which is going to give you an easier light source for this one. And you might get your markers kind of organized ahead of time like I have here. So I have my French grays that I'm going to use, and then my colors. So I'm going to start by thinking about my color palette. I wanted to practice that chromatic neutral in effect. So I'm going to do this blue carpet with the chromatic neutral. Okay, so I'm going to start by using this lighter cerulean blue over here by the window where the light is bleaching out. Okay, then I'm going to use my Mediterranean blue, which is the field color of the carpet, coming in off of that. I'm trying to create a straight line here so it looks like the light's coming straight in from the window. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in most of this carpet with this blue. And so again, I'm just trying to rotate my paper so I can fill around edges and get the marker where I want it to go. Okay, so I'm starting to get that going, but I want to now let that soak in for a minute, and I'm going to dull the blue in this area. So now I'm going to take some of this umber and use that for the nightstand. This is the light umber. So as I put that on, I want to think about some reflective effects. So I'm going to bring some verticals down in here. So it looks like the light's kind of reflecting off this mirror and casting onto the nightstand a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to add a second coat here. So this is where I'm just kind of getting my base coats going. I'm going to add more marker to this in a minute to give it value. So is just my initial layer of it. Okay, now that I've added that, this has had time to soak in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put the umber here underneath the bed where I want the color of the blue to dull. And moving along the front here. So I'm using a chromatic neutral, meaning I'm using this umber to neutralize the blue versus gray, so that the colors will feel a little bit more lively. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take the indigo blue, the dark blue over that, to darken and dull the blue under the bed. See how I'm just kind of working that in. Okay, so now what I want to do is let that soak in for a minute. I'm going to use this indigo to create some accents. So like maybe this vase, make it look like a porcelain ceramic. And I notice I'm trying to back off and let the curves of the vase still catch the light. Okay, so now I want to go back in with my Mediterranean through that dulled blue and create a blend coming out away from the bed. And particularly back in this area with the blue to get darker looking, where it's kind of blocked by the side of the bed. Okay, so you see how we're getting some tonal variation from the washed out blue to this darker blue, hopefully. It's the goal there. Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to do the folds in the bed. I'm going to keep the coverlet white, so I'm going to take the French 60, and you can use either the chisel point or the fine point. Oh wait, this is my 90, I need my 60. And I'm going to put that in the folds of the fabric. So like on the demo, you can think about peaks and valleys, where things roll in, creates that valley. And notice how I took off that line on the edge of the bed. So I'm trying to make this read softer, right? So if I have a hard line here, that's going to make it read more, you know, like a hard surface, not a soft surface. So now I'm going to go through that with the 40 on this side that's facing away from the light, just to tone that a little bit, tone that blue. And then I'm going to mix through that with the 20. Feeling this side facing away from the light. Taking some 20 on this side, where it's side to the light. And leaving the top more white. I'm going to put a little 20 up in here where this is overlapping. So it feels like the light's coming in from the window and hitting the edge of the bed. So now I'm going to take some 20, put it on the side of the sheets over here. Again, where it's rolling away. Or like on the pillow, you know, where you kind of like the edge of the pillow. Or if you have like a little divot in the pillow, putting a little 20 in there. See how that's starting to get a little bit of dimension now. Okay, so now I want to think about how to add some accent to it. So what if I wanted to have an accent on the duvet cover or on the shams, I could just take my fine point of blue. I'm just going to add a little bead of color, so it looks like it has a stripe. Well, now I have to go more with it. So I'm going to add a border of blue instead of a stripe. So yeah, when things happen, don't panic, just keep going, fix it, you got it. Okay. so now I want to think about adding some accent color to the mix. Oh wait, while we're still kind of on the subject of folds, let's do the curtains. So I'm going to do the same thing with the curtain. I'm going to take the 60 and put that down in some of these folds, like I show on the demo on the website for soft surfaces. And see how you're trying to drag your hand through so it feels like the curtain has gravity, right? And now I'm going to take the 20 again and blend that out. So see how you're trying to get like a feeling of peaks and valleys. Here's your peak and then these are the valleys. Okay, so now let's talk about the color for the walls. So do I want to put them as an accent color or keep them neutral? Well, if I'm going to keep them neutral, then I'm going to just use the gray. So I'm going to go ahead and use the gray 40 on this wall. Actually, start with a little 60 here in the corner. This is the 60. And now I'm going to take the 40, if I can find it. It's the 20. What did I do with the 40? Oh, here it is. Here's the 40. And I'm going to wash that through. Again, this wall is going to be darker because it's facing away from the window, right? So remember, you can rotate. Okay, so what I was saying is I'm going to take a little 20 now. I have the 40 here in the corner. I'm going to take the 20 and start to wash that out. Back over to the highlight. So now I'll just put some here around the painting to make it look like it's a little shadow. And here by the edge of the nightstand and with the headboard. I'm using the shadow here or this side of the nightstand. Okay, but letting it kind of fade over to white on this side. Okay, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of the 20 up here on the ceiling. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of depth on it, but it still needs some punch. So this is where you're going to go in with your 90. Inch 90. And I'm going to add that underneath the pillows. And then where one overlaps another, underneath. And underneath the mattress here. Go ahead and put some in these folds. Underneath the bed. On the shadow side, underneath the nightstand. Behind the nightstand. Behind the mirror. See how that's giving it some punch? It might be behind the artwork here. Underneath where it's going to cast a little shadow. And inside this plant. Okay, so now I want to add some more color accents. Now that I've kind of got those bases going. So now I'm going to add some green to this base of flowers. This is the olive, the dark olive. So I put a little bit of the French 90 there in the middle to make the green look darker there in the center. And then I'm going to take some of this red, this is the cherry, and add a few dots for little flowers. Now why the cherry? Because I've got all this blue. Remember we talked about complementary colors and how that is a complement tone to blue, right? So that's going to help balance the composition. So I just don't want it right there, otherwise my mind's going to just lock onto that spot. So I put a little of the cherry here. I'm going to put a little bit outside. Maybe there's some flowering plants out here. Okay. And that way my brain will go connect from place to place. I'm even going to put a little bit here on the edge of the pillow. So it looks like the sheets have maybe like an embroidered trim there that helps tie it together. Maybe like one line up in the heart. Okay, so now you always want to stop and take a look at it and see what it still needs. Well, I need to develop the outside and do some more stuff here to give it some punch on the inside, but we'll get to that here in a second. But let's look at the outside. So if I have this ocean view, I'm going to start with the indigo, this dark blue, and I want to lose texture here. Remember how it's going to come up to your horizon line. So I'm losing texture here in the background, and then I'll start to break it up, and it's almost like the light's hitting the water here as it moves forward. Okay, and now I can go to a lighter blue as it moves forward. Now, see how I'm trying not to give it a sense of big waves or something. Oh, this is loud music. Hopefully this will calm down in a minute. Because otherwise, if it's too textured, it's going to feel like the ocean's coming right into the house. So now I'm going to take that light cerulean blue and wash it out even more as it moves forward. And then I'm going to take some of that. And add some to the sky, make it kind of look like puffy clouds up there. Okay, so now we're starting to get a setting going. But I'd also add, where my pins went. This is the 03. I'm going to add a few streaks on the window so you can see the glass in there too. Okay, so now you always want to stop, take a look, see what else it needs. So I decided I want to make a little more punch with the headboard. So I'm going to take some black, and notice how with these round finials, I'm trying to leave those white highlights facing the window. So even if you're using something heavy like black, you can still leave those white highlights on top edges and edges that face the light, and that will give it more depth. My Hawaiian music. I think I'm ready for a vacation, aren't you? Be nice to go somewhere. Okay, so now, again, taking a look at it, see if it needs anything else. Well, you can see that I might develop these books. I'm going to put a little bit of the screen down here on these books. Looks like a collection of something. And then it's always good to just go neutral too. So I'm going to take some of this gray. It'll just look like stacks of periodicals or something. Okay, so now take a look at it, see where else it needs. I'm going to put a little bit of blue in the artwork up here to balance the blue I have elsewhere. And maybe a little bit of green up in there too. Kind of suggesting some sort of a triptych landscape. Okay, so you always want to take a step back and see what needs to be developed. Well, I left those dark 90s in here, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue over here. Looking kind of a washed out gray blue. So you can see what happens when you wash the color into the gray. Now, the other thing is, once you do that, you want to make sure you have a scrap of paper so that you can clean out your marker so it doesn't stay that grayed out color on the marker. Okay. Oh, and I can see I still need to color this other nightstand. So you don't need to make your two nightstands match, you know, just, I've made a room that's kind of basic. You can be more creative than this. But see how I'm trying to, you can feel like the light from the vase is kind of hitting down onto the table. So notice if I go back with another coat after it's had a chance to soak in, you can get a nice value change there. If you try to do it while it's still wet though, it's not going to have any impact. So that's why it's important to work all over the drawing and then, you know, leave it for a while, come back, and then you can work it again. Now I can also add some French 90 in there, in here where it's inside this cabinet, so it gets, the value gets much darker to give it more depth too. Okay, let's see what else we need. Oh, the floor. So, you know, on this one, you could do a hardwood floor by just bringing the plank lines out from the vanishing point over here. So you just want to make sure that all your detail lines are also going out from your point. So I'm eyeballing it, but you want to use your vanishing point. Okay, so I can decide, do I want to keep it just neutral, like it's kind of a weathered floor? I'm going to go ahead and take the French 40 and emphasize those planks coming out. And I can decide if I want to do more with it. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is just go back in with the French 90 one more time and just pop some stuff with that darker value. So where these curtains overlap the floor, for example, the edge of the rug, back here, and then underneath things. Okay. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is just add a touch of blue here for reflection on this metallic. And then I think I'm done. Actually, I'm going to, see, here I go, don't want to overwork it. I'm just going to pop in a little detail on these shams so they don't feel so amorphous. I'm using the 03 and just putting some finer line in there. Okay, now I'm feeling it. All right, so this is your homework where you're going to take your 2-point block out and then evolve it with using both chromatic neutraline effects, and you can still use the grays, of course, to get a color palette and a color scheme going and creating an atmosphere that's hopefully, you know, nice for a bedroom. So let me think of anything else. Like I said, keep your markers organized. Mine are not organized anymore, but when they started they were. And then have your pens and everything handy so that when you're going you don't have to break your flow. And have fun with it. Just experiment and see what you can come up with. Thank you.